Coming off the first weekend of conference play, we were hoping to play better and pick up 2 wins. Unfortunately, we only got the one, had to play 5 extra minutes the first night on a defensive mistake. We could have won that game in regulation and didn't do it. Had great play from Devin Butts. He jumped up off the bench and made 6 3-point shots for us. He's a really good shooter. Needed those points, and we're able to get some big offensive rebounds and putbacks from Malik Wilson in that second half also in overtime that helped us seal that game. A little bit shorthanded not having Duguay for the weekend, and unfortunately Isaiah Small for Texas State had a career night, 11 for 15, and then it turned around, went 8 for 9 on Saturday. And both career games for the position that Dew would have guarded. And Dew's averaging a double-double. He's 5th in the league in rebounding. And his absence really hurt us. Cedric was not 100%. He hurt himself in practice, hurt his toe on Tuesday of last week. And he wasn't himself either. We come back the second night and lose a game. We're tied at halftime. We felt like in the first half, if we would have hit some shots like Devin did against them on Friday night, that we could have pushed the game and got some separation. But we weren't able to do that. The game was 24-all at the half. Our defense was good. Then the second half, our defense was left in the locker room. We gave up 75%, I believe, and starting off, they hit 17 of their first 20 shots and just played from behind. Their experienced team, all of their key contributors, their starters and 6-man played last year, and they're a returning team that you don't want to play catch up with because they're good with the ball and they got it going, and to their credit, they played well and made shots, and we weren't able to sustain the offense to stay with them late in the game. So we're excited about practice this week, and we've got Little Rock coming in. They're the number 1 team overall in the league, number 1 in the East, and they had 2 big wins against UTA in Little Rock this past weekend. They shot a great percentage. They have 4 foreign guys that play heavy minutes. Ben Coupe was a player of the week in our league that was announced this morning. And they've also got the preseason number 1 and 2 players in the league along with Coupe. So they've got an excellent group, and it'll be a different game for us come Friday, and one that we'll need to play well to win.
Coach, is there anything to the notion with this new back-to-back thing in not having a lot of fans in the stands because of the COVID restrictions? Is there anything to maybe change, like playing 6 and then 4? And I know he just announced Texas Tech is 4 and 4 to give yourself those extra few hours, or is that being not that big of a deal if you play 4 and 4, or play earlier on Friday because you have to play so early on Saturday?
Well, you could. I think the home team has an opportunity and to move the game up. 6 o'clock is moved up an hour. And it's, as we said the other night, it's like conference play in the tournament where you have to play at night and turn around and play the next day. So I think 6 o'clock is a good start time on Friday night. We didn't need the extra 5 minutes, that's for sure. But we got our guys fed and treated, and they got them some good rest on Friday night and came back for Saturday, and we're ready to go.
Do you feel like it's a matter of it's going to take a week or so to kind of build up the endurance and that's going to happen, or is this going to be kind of a constant struggle all year long on the weekend from just a physical endurance and depth-wise?
It'll be different both ways. The endurance is important. The conditioning is an important part of it. You need to work the guys hard, and we've got some guys that have been nicked up and had some knee issues, so we don't want to overwork them, but we want them to be prepared to come in and play quality minutes. And we're just going to have to be in shape and try to avoid injury. Again, with COVID, other teams, Texas State did not, but other teams in the league had players out, including Little Rock and Georgia State, that are key contributors to their team that didn't play because of COVID protocols. So Texas State even had a couple of guys that were nicked up and weren't able to finish the game in overtime, and they came back and played extremely well. So there's definitely going to be a mental part to it, Kevin, and and also some mental toughness where you just have to be physically strong and come back and conditioned mentally to take care of the second game.
The defense that you mentioned, y'all not playing as well in the second half, how much of that had to do with maybe some adjustments they made after playing 3 halves in less than 24 hours against y'all, and how much it just had to do with not having maybe your legs in the second half of the second game?
I don't think it was so much adjustments. They ran the same stuff that we'd worked on all week. It's some of the same offensive actions that they ran last year. So we were ready for it. We just didn't guard it. We didn't close out the touch. We didn't stay with our guys like we needed to. And we had some breakdowns and they hit shots and then they got it going. And then we had a couple of turnovers in the second half where they got easy buckets. We didn't do that on our end. And that's a big part of how we play. So they just made shots. We broke down defensively from an assignment standpoint. And then physically, I'm sure we were tired at some point in the second half.
Do we know is it too early to know if Dude's going to be available this weekend?
No, he'll be available. He'll be back at practice today.
Is there any update on the guys that have been out from the beginning, or is it too early to know any update on them?
Meaning, Kevin, the guys.
Kobe and Dury.
Oh, the guys that had surgery. They are still training, doing their therapy. They've been working extremely hard. They're both making good strides. So it's too early to give a date for that. I would assume that it would be middle of February or later.
You mentioned Little Rock and just the threat that they present and that it's going to be different from this weekend. How do they differ, I guess, from Texas State?
Well, Texas State plays inside out for sure. They throw the ball inside, and we did a great job on Sule, who's a really efficient post player. We doubled him, got the ball out of his hands. I think he was, 3 for 11 one game. Maybe made 4 or 5 field goals for 2 games and had about 5 or 6 rebounds. So we'll have to do the same thing with Little Rock. They're bigger. Merrick and Munyong are both 6'10", 6'9". They're more physical. They're going to pound it inside, and that'll be a challenge for us as well. Even though the game plan will be similar to what we did against Texas State, Little Rock has bigger players and more of them.
And then when it comes to back-to-backs, and I know it's something that I guess will be learned throughout the season, is it possible to play I don't know, maybe different guys in the rotation or a longer rotation just for like minutes purposes, if that makes sense?
Yeah, we have all kind of options. We can play big, small. We try to play guys that are fresh, that can play hard for 4 to 8 minute periods. We get trapped sometimes when things aren't going well, and we'll try to leave Cedric or Malik out there too long at times, and they need to rest. And we try to play as many people as we can in the first half, and I think we played all 11 in the first half on Saturday night in case we would need them in the second half, and we were able to get some guys some minutes that were fresh. But it changes your rotation, and you have to decide how you want to go about it. We're talking about that as a staff actually today, and if you look at Texas State, they had a small rotation. They only had 1 guard and 2 bigs come off the bench, basically. And I think it helped them, and the way they played was to their advantage.
Was Theo's lack of field goal attempts because of the size that you talked about or not that Texas State had? And so is that going to even be a bigger challenge against Little Rock, or was it something else?
It'll be a challenge against Little Rock. They did a good job taking him out as we took them out. Sule, both guys we didn't get enough touches for sure for Theo. That was one of our goals, and our guards have to do a better job of getting the ball to the wing and getting to a post-entry position and then delivering the pass where he can do something with it. That's something we work on and we talk about, and we'll continue to practice this week. But Little Rock will be bigger. It'll be a challenge. Theo and Isaiah were recruited to combat a team like Little Rock, a team like Georgia State that has multiple bigs inside.
So does that mean Isaiah, because if they're that big, couldn't maybe even need to play even more minutes, just matchup wise?
Possibly, and those guys could play together at times as well. Kevin, it just depends on who's on the floor for the other team.
Is there a reason to not play them maybe more minutes together, or before this matchup, or is it just kind of work out that way?
No, it's just the way it's worked out. I mean, you have to remember if you're going to play those two guys together, and you got a player like Isaiah Small, for instance, the other night, who had a great game. Duke can guard those guys on the perimeter, but Theo and Isaiah cannot. So it has to be a matchup situation where they can guard, or you have to play zone. And we chose not to play much zone the other night, and because of that, they were limited to being on the court at the same time.
How encouraged were you to see Devin be able to fill it up like that on Friday? And how much do you believe that can become something that is consistent from him game to game?
Well, he's getting better. He's worked really hard this summer, and in the early part of the fall and the games, he didn't get to play a lot against Baylor, and he came back and has started to work harder and having more success. He's growing as a player, and shooting the ball is what he does best. He's aggressive. He brings energy. So we see it in practice all the time. It was nice to see him jump in there the other night and hit those shots. And I think he made 6 for 12 the first game, and those 18 points from 3 were huge. And he did take one ill-advised one in the overtime with time and score situation with about 1:25 to go. But we don't win without his 3-point shooting on Friday. And then we turn around Saturday and he struggles and goes 0 for on the field from the floor and winds up making 2 free throws. So 20 points difference right there, and we need him to score, especially with Dew out.
We talked to him Friday, of course, and he said that was the first thing y'all told him when he got to the locker room was about that ill-advised shot in overtime.
Yeah, it's just part of growing up, and we've seen people have done that to us before and gave us a chance to come back and win with a minute to go. I can specifically remember the one time University of Houston came here, and it was Alfred's junior year. We had the good team, and Houston was up by maybe 5, and they had a guy shot one from the corner with a minute to go and missed it. If he makes it, they probably win the game. If Devin hits his, we probably win, but it's just the percentages aren't worth doing. And we came back and won that game in overtime against Houston. And that's why you got to teach these guys. Good teaching moment, Seth, for sure.
For sure.
So what's the main, I know you touched on some of it, but main 2 or 3 keys against, if y'all are going to have success against Little Rock?
Need to be able to score. We've got to defend them on the interior, and then we need to score on the interior. We need to make 3-point shots as well. They've got a really good team. Their guard did not play, all-conference guard did not play this weekend either. And they shot 75%. As I said, Coupe was player of the week. They've got a strong team. They only play about 7 or 8 guys, similar to Texas State, so their rotation is limited. But they won the league last year at 15-5, and we're going to have an excellent chance to win the tournament if it was able to be completed in New Orleans at the Smoothie King. So they're coming back. They had 2 big wins at home, and this is their first road test, and we'll get a great shot for them. And it's going to be a challenge to knock them off 2 nights in a row, but we're looking forward to it.
What would you the sense from your team in terms of reacting and reaction, or is it too early to know from this weekend? I know you sounded a little frustrated that y'all could have played a little more consistently. How do you sense the team got through this first weekend mentally?
I think they did fine. It was a little bit different because we had not done it. Good preparation that we had. We had a nice plan in place. We had the most rest, according to our Whoop scores, on Thursday and Friday that we've ever had. So the guys got plenty of sleep. They were well rested, well hydrated. We stretched in between days, in between games, and really worked on that. So But it's a learning experience, and they were disappointed that we lost the game, and they know the reason why. And we're going to come back and work on correcting that this week and try to get better. Our emphasis on getting better offensively, getting better, and be consistent on defense as well. And then hopefully we'll rebound the ball better having Due back.